Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey, get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. So here we go. The House voted to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress yesterday, referring the top Department of Justice official for criminal charges. Longtime Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell says he'll be in attendance today as Senate Republicans meet in the nation's capital with former President Donald Trump. It's the first time the two men have met in person in almost 4 years. Jewish activists are planning a get out the vote effort to oust anti-Israel squad member Representative Jamaal Bowman. Meanwhile, the challenger George Latimer picked up an endorsement today from Hillary Clinton. From Politico, Vice President Kamala Harris faces skepticism about her future role in the party from a bloc of Democrats and a far larger share of independents. We're going to talk about what do we do with Kamala Harris. Also, as a side note, the vice president recently disclosed that she uses more curse words than ever since she took office in 2021.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, you know, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
The House voted to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress yesterday. The measure passed nearly along party lines, 216 to 207, with just one Republican, Representative David Joyce, he's from Ohio, voting against the measure. Joyce said in a statement after the vote, quote, "As a former prosecutor, I cannot in good conscience support a resolution that would further politicize our judicial system to score political points. The American people expect Congress to work for them, solve policy problems, and prioritize good government. Enough is enough." GOP lawmakers aimed to hold Garland in contempt over his refusal to turn over audio recordings of special counsel Robert Hur's interview with President Joe Biden. Hur concluded that no criminal charges were warranted in Biden's handling of classified documents, but also said that the 81-year-old president presented himself as, quote, "a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory," and that it would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Biden and his allies aggressively pushed back on the concerns about his mental fitness. In the report's wake, the Justice Department released a statement from Attorney General Garland after the vote. Here's what he said: "It is deeply disappointing that this House of Representatives has turned a serious congressional authority into a partisan weapon. Today's vote disregards the constitutional separation of powers, the Justice Department's need to protect its investigations, and the substantial amount of information we have provided to the committees," he said. "I will always stand up for this department, its employees, and its vital mission to defend our democracy." So suddenly, Merrick Garland is concerned about turning the judiciary into a partisan weapon. Since when was he concerned about that? Since when was he concerned that the DOJ was a partisan weapon? Has he not been the leader of that effort? The Republicans seeking the audio recording argue that it would provide critical context about Joe Biden's state of the mind. Democrats, meanwhile, have dismissed the request as a partisan attempt to politicize the Department of Justice. Again, pot calling kettle black. Representative Glenn Ivey, a Democrat from Maryland, said, "It's a huge disappointment. I think it's an abuse of the congressional contempt power." Man, these guys are such hypocrites. Representative Chip Roy from Texas, however, argued that the DOJ's refusal meant Garland simply wanted it hidden. He said, "There's only one reason why the Attorney General would do that. He doesn't want us to hear it. That's why." And I think Chip Roy's right. They don't want, Joe Biden and his handlers do not want the American people to hear Joe Biden in a private setting like this as an old man. Wouldn't sound too good in a political campaign, would it? Roy went on to say, and there's really only two reasons why that would be the case. Either the transcript doesn't match the audio. Now, I hadn't thought about that. That could be a very valid concern. Or the audio is so bad that he doesn't want us to hear it. I suspect that's part of the case. And it could be a combination of both. The pursuit of Hur's audio tapes is part of the House GOP's wider impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden, investigating the allegations that he used his political position to enrich himself and his family. Biden has denied accusations of wrongdoing, of course, and we're supposed to believe him and go about our business and just pretend none of this happened. House Republicans halted the advancement of a contempt resolution against Hunter Biden, you may recall, earlier this year after GOP investigators reached an agreement with Biden's attorneys. Meanwhile, two ex-Trump administration aides, you'll remember Peter Navarro, and former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon, you'll recall they were convicted on contempt of Congress charges for dodging subpoenas by the House Select Committee on January the 6th. This was when the House was controlled by Democrats. It was okay for them to do that then, to go after Republicans. Both were referred by for criminal charges by the previous Democrat-controlled House of Representatives led by Nancy Pelosi. Now, the DOJ did not act on a third referral by Democrats for former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. It's highly unlikely, according to a lot of legal scholars, that the DOJ will act on House Republicans' referral, something that has frustrated House Republicans who spoke with Fox News. Representative Rich McCormick from Georgia said, "I'm not optimistic because I think the DOJ has proven themselves very partisan and not honest brokers of how they apply the law." It's certainly not equal justice for all, that's for sure. When asked if he thought the DOJ might act, Representative Byron Donalds quipped, "Not likely." Garland took an indirect shot at Republicans' pushback on the DOJ in a Washington Post op-ed Tuesday morning. Writing, "In recent weeks, we've seen an escalation of attacks that go far beyond public scrutiny, criticism, and legitimate necessary oversight of our work. They are baseless, personal, and dangerous," he wrote. "These attacks come in the form of threats to defund particular department investigations, most recently the special counsel's prosecution of the former president." Now, see, he wants that to continue. He wants the special counsel to have all the money they need to investigate Donald Trump. But boy, you start investigating Joe Biden and you're weaponizing the DOJ. What do you think of the changing topics here slightly? Still remaining on Capitol Hill. What do you think about the idea of Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, speaking of, in the same room? Longtime Senate GOP leader McConnell says that he'll be in attendance today. The meeting's supposed to take place later today, as Senate Republicans meet in the nation's capital with former President Donald Trump. It'll be the first time that Trump and McConnell have seen each other in person for nearly 4 years now. That's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? That you have two men this involved in the Republican Party, and they haven't been in the same room together since, I guess that means since Trump left office. Trump, of course, the GOP nominee, or presumptive nominee, I'm supposed to say at this point, he doesn't have the nomination yet, is holding behind closed doors meetings, we're told, throughout the day with House Republicans this morning and and Senate Republicans later this afternoon. McConnell reiterated to reporters that "I'll be in the meeting tomorrow." This was yesterday at his weekly news conference.
You know, I said 3 years ago, right after the Capitol was attacked, that I would support our nominee, regardless of who it was, including him. I've said earlier this year, I support him. He's earned the nomination by the voters all across the country. And of course, I'll be at the meeting tomorrow.
Leader McConnell.
The New York Post reported that McConnell and Trump haven't talked since December of 2020 as their working relationship turned kind of frosty, and that's putting it nicely, following President Biden's so-called victory in November of that year. McConnell formally recognized Biden as the winner of that contest after former Vice President was confirmed the winner by the Electoral College December 5th of 2020. A few weeks later, McConnell said Trump was morally responsible for the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters who aimed to upend congressional certification of Biden's White House win. Trump, in the ensuing years, regularly blasted McConnell. He's never been very positive about Mitch McConnell through social media posts, calling him, among other things, an absolute loser at times. And the former president also made derogatory remarks about McConnell's wife, who served as Trump's transportation secretary. Fast forward to this year, McConnell endorsed Trump after the former president in early March clinched the 2024 GOP nomination, saying it is abundantly clear that former President Trump has earned the requisite support of Republican voters to be our nominee for President of the United States. It should come as no surprise that as nominee, he will have my support. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutritionist. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. A group of Jewish activists are organizing a Get Out the Vote effort to topple anti-Israel squad member Representative Jamaal Bowman. This is an unprecedented Vote Shabbat campaign, which is underway to galvanize Jews in Westchester County, this is in the state of New York, to help vote out lefty anti-Israel squad member Representative Jamaal Bowman and elect moderate county executive George Latimer in the upcoming New York June 25th 16th District Democrat primary. The name of the initiative refers to the fact that early voting begins on Saturday during the Jewish Shabbat or the Jewish Sabbath, or in Hebrew, Shabbat. Of the Westchester Democrats who have already requested early mail-in ballots, 40% are Jewish voters, a percentage that far outstrips their proportion of the electorate, according to Teach New York Coalition founder and CEO Mari Litwak. Litwak told the New York Post, citing recent instances of public anti-Semitism across New York, this is a moment in time for the Jewish community. The request for mail ballot shows high interest in the race. People are itching to vote, excited to vote. They're not just putting it in their calendar to vote. They're voting and they're telling their friends to vote. The campaign, organized by the Jewish Orthodox Union with leaders of 36 local synagogues, is officially nonpartisan, but Litwak said that local Jewish voters don't feel their voices are being heard by elected officials, a clear dig at Representative Bowman, of course, whose 16th district covers much of Westchester and portions of the northern Bronx. He noted there's a feeling among Jewish voters that they're not being represented and they want to be heard at the ballot box. And boy, you'll get his attention then, won't you? Rabbi Evan Hoffman, past president of the Westchester Board of Rabbis and head of the Anshan Shalom Synagogue in New Rochelle, is a key figure in the voter mobilization effort. He said, I'll be voting for George Latimer adding that 100% of people in his orbit will do the same. Bowman is opposed to Israel and, more subtly, to the Jews in his own district, the rabbi said. Bowman, who polls show to be trailing Mr. Latimer at this point by double digits, by the way, has outraged Israel supporters and Jewish activists for his statements regarding the U.S. ally and its war against Hamas terracing the Gaza Strip. Now, this is just campaign at its, or politics at its finest. Because if you don't represent the people in your district, you don't deserve to be reelected. And Jamaal Bowman, I don't know what's taking him so long. He's a disgrace to our country and certainly an embarrassment to his district. The two-term incumbent, he's 48 years old. He's been endorsed by Anti-Israel Democrat Socialist America, DSA, which supports the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against the Jewish state, a drive many pro-Israel activists deem to be anti-Semitic. During his May 26 endorsement interview with a DSA, Bowman said he personally supports the BDS movement, clashing with his public position. BDS is a nonviolent protest opportunity to hold Israel accountable, Bowman said during the interview, according to excerpts reported by the New York Times. He said, "I think Israel needs to be held accountable, and I'm so ready, willing, and able to collaborate with you all to figure out what's the best way to do that." Wonder exactly what he does think Israel needs to be held accountable for. Wonder if he thinks the Hamas terrorists need to be held accountable. Bowman also said he now opposes U.S. funding of Israel's Iron Dome air defense system, for which he voted months after taking office in 2021. He said he initially voted for the funding to show his constituents he wasn't against the Jewish people, telling DSA members, "I didn't want my no vote to be misinterpreted as I want Jews to be killed. There's no way I could support any of that because there's a genocide happening in Gaza," Bowman told the socialist group. A genocide happening in Gaza. Again, what does he think about all of the innocent people that the Hamas terrorists slaughtered on October the 7th? There was a debate recently where Mr. Latimer and Bowman argued that the phrase "from river to the sea," which has been chanted by these anti-Israel groups, and it's generally interpreted to mean that they're wanting to eradicate Israel and its people. Bowman tried to argue that it wasn't hateful. Latimer countered that the phrase is commonly understood as anti-Semitic and genocidal. Bowman was also captured on video, this was last year, calling Israel an apartheid state and angrily claiming reports of rapes and child murders during the October 7th attack were a lie. I mean, he literally says that the terrorists, Hamas terrorists, didn't do this. He later walked back the sex abuse comment after being criticized for mouthing Hamas propaganda. And that is propaganda. We've seen the videos showing this happening on October 7th. I wonder if Mr. Bowman has watched the video that has been circulated around the country, and any elected official who wanted to see it has been invited to see it. I wonder if he has actually gone in and watched this to see firsthand exactly what did happen on October the 7th. Meanwhile, and this was an interesting development in this race, Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, former Secretary of State, threw her weight behind the challenger. She has endorsed George Latimer as a principled Democrat, making no mention of political fallout over the Israel-Hamas war, which has loomed large over this matchup. She just said that she supports Mr. Latimer. She posted this on X. With Trump on the ballot, we need strong, principled Democrats in Congress more than ever. In Congress, Latimer for New York will protect abortion rights, stand up to the NRA, and fight for President Biden's agenda just like he's always done. Make a plan to vote by June 25th. So that's an interesting development in this case. Jamaal Bowman may be on his way out, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. When he aligned himself with the rest of the squad after he was first elected, I knew then the guy was going to be trouble, and I hope he does get defeated. New York State Democrat Party Chairman Jay Jacobs said that Clinton's endorsement was a coup for Latimer and could help him with undecided voters. In a statement, he said, "When Hillary says something, people listen. she's extraordinarily popular in the Democrat Party. She's well regarded and trusted. I don't know that I would exactly say she's trusted, but maybe well regarded within the Democrat Party. Echoing the Democrat Party official, Hazel Dukes, president of the state chapter of the NAACP, said Bill and Hillary Clinton are still popular in the Democrat Party, but didn't think it would move the needle one way or the other in the Bowman-Latimer race. She said it's about everyday issues, the economy, inflation. They're intelligent voters. We shall see. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, Joey at joeyhudson.com. A new poll goes a little bit deeper into the issue with Kamala Harris and her strengths and liabilities as a potential president. Now, Democrats seemingly continue to struggle with what they're actually going to do with Joe Biden. Even though we're well into this election cycle, there's still a lot of discontentment within the Democrat Party because they don't want to say it. It's the elephant in the room, or maybe I should say the donkey in the room. But Joe Biden is an old man and should not even be running. And it's finally occurred to Democrat Party leadership that this is not a good idea to have Joe Biden on the ticket again. So there's speculation about how this is all going to play out and how they can tactfully, first of all, get Joe Biden off the ticket. Secondly, what do they do with Kamala? Now, there's a theory floating around that Biden may be open to this, particularly with the conviction of his son Hunter. The scenario could look something like this to a potential, maybe Gavin Newsom. All right, Gavin, I'm going to step aside, let you have the nomination. I'm going to support you, get you elected, but you're going to have to pardon my son, little Hunter, for his transgressions. You agree to pardon him, and we've got a deal. But the only problem with that is, what do they do with Kamala? Representative Andy Ogle joined Maria Bartiromo on Fox Business Wednesday morning, discussing Hunter Biden's 3 felony convictions from the day before. Representative Ogles predicted that Hunter Biden's legal issues could lead to President Joe Biden literally dropping out of the 2024 election, but now he thinks that Michelle Obama would be taking his place. Listen to this exchange.
In court. And that being said, I think it also creates an opening for Democrats to slip someone like Michelle Obama in here. The Biden family can say, hey, we're going to take care of our house, we're going to take care of our son, and then allow Michelle Obama to come in and run because, again, Joe Biden can't win this election, and they know that, and they are desperate for another candidate. I
got to tell you, I am increasingly thinking that Joe Biden withdraws from this race by the time November 5th comes along. I am buying into what you're saying there because I agree that the Democrats are desperate right now. They are very worried.
Yeah, they're worried, and yes, they're desperate. Which leads me back to my question. What do you do with Kamala? And a new poll shows why Democrats don't want Kamala on the ballot either. From Politico, Vice President Kamala Harris faces skepticism about her future role in the party from a bloc of Democrats and a far larger share of independents, those coveted independents that are required to win a national race by either party, by the way. With voter concern about President Joe Biden, Politico says, his age haunting his chances of re-election, a new poll shows his next in line, Vice President Kamala Harris, facing serious doubts about her ability to win the presidency herself or to perform the job well were she to inherit it if Joe Biden were to, for whatever reason, step aside. The Politico Morning Consult poll reveals that only a third of voters think that it's likely Harris would win an election where she was to become the Democrat nominee, and just 3 of 5 Democrats believe that she would be successful. A quarter of independents think that she would win. That skepticism extends to her potential future role as the head of her party. 42% of voters described her as a strong leader. I'm surprised it's that high, including 3/4 of Democrats, but only a third of independents. The poll shows that Harris shares the same poor ratings as Biden. Both are well underwater. Biden at 43% favorable and 54% unfavorable. Harris a bit lower at 42% favorable and 52% unfavorable. Harris's efforts to reboot after a rocky start appear to have paid some dividends with important Democrat constituencies in ways that might move the needle in a close election. She outperformed Biden among black voters, a shift from when the two competed for the Democrat nomination just 4 years ago. And among Democrats, she's extended her lead over potential rivals in a hypothetical 2028 matchup. Harris also polled well on some key issues, like abortion, while lagging on others like immigration. Overall, the findings suggest that Ms. Harris is unlikely to be able to quiet any anxiety among voters about what would happen if Joe Biden became unable to serve. And that is a huge question. Again, that's the donkey in the room. What happens when you have an 81-year-old man who doesn't even look that healthy now, and we put him in there for another 4 years? What's the likelihood of him surviving 4 years? And look, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a libertarian, a Green Party, whatever you are, it should concern you, or it should scare you to even think about the idea of Joe Biden being elected. Forget about his politics. Forget about the disastrous administration he's had. Just think about the fact of this old man literally serving in office, knowing he's probably not going to complete the term, and hand it over to Kamala Harris. Attitudes about Harris, according to Politico, could play a more pronounced role in the campaign than with a typical vice president, as voters assess handing another 4-year term to Joe Biden. Yeah, because, again, in previous administrations, you didn't think a whole lot about the vice president. Yes, you know that vice president is a heartbeat away from the president, but in most cases, you had a pretty healthy guy. You had a pretty healthy man in the number one chair, and you didn't think a whole lot about the vice president having to step in. R.L. Miller is a climate activist, an outgoing member of the Democrat National Committee from California, said she's done an admirable job on reproductive health and issues important to the black community and related to youth. But at the same time, she's falling into the same spot that many vice presidents fall into, which is that she doesn't have a very public role outside of her lane. People don't associate her with issues like foreign policy, which is so important these days. She isn't being credited with the larger international and domestic work. Look, no one's going to think of Kamala Harris as a foreign policy wonk. She doesn't even understand foreign policy. Miller describes herself as a longtime fan of Kamala Harris and said that the vice president would be her first choice if, God forbid, something were to happen to Biden. She said, "I'm afraid Democrats have internalized the Hillary Clinton lesson, that a woman can't win, and I think it's sad." I don't think there's an issue with the idea that a woman, just because of her sex, can't win. We haven't had the right woman yet, and Hillary Clinton definitely was not the right woman. We all agreed on that. According to Politico, Harris faces pessimism about her future in the Democrat Party as a large share of independents. And again, you got to have those independents these days in order to win a national election. Harris scored in the high 70s with Democrats on both questions, but in the mid 30s with independents. Voters overall were split when asked whether she is prepared for the job as well as if she cares about people like them. She performed relatively well on issues like health care, gender inequality, LGBTQ plus rights, but is well below majority in terms of how much voters trust her to handle things like the most important issue in the country right now, and that's immigration. They don't trust her with relations with China. And the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is even lower on the list. Harris is, we're told, is working to overcome her uneven arrival in the White House, a stretch marked by embarrassing slip-ups, a politically toxic portfolio that included immigration and internal staff upheaval that contributed to the notion that she lacked respect among her staff. She wasn't in charge. Gretchen Barton, a Democrat strategist, said, "We talk to Americans and they can't really give voice to all the accomplishments of the president and the vice president, even when they've been big and super important. That's a real problem because people are ultimately looking for someone who can get things done, and they're waiting to hear what's been delivered." Well, there's nothing been delivered. I mean, she was the border czar. She was tasked. Her first job given to her was to solve the crisis at the southern border. And she didn't even go to the border for the first year. She is a joke. Kamala Harris is a joke. She is a joke. And we should all be frightened about the idea of her potentially being president. In this same poll, her position with key communities, including 67% favorability among black voters versus 23% unfavorable, represents a shift for the vice president, who had trailed Biden with black voters since they had competed in the 2020 primary, and after he picked her to run alongside him. Politics analyst, Morning Consult contributor Cameron Easley said that Biden's numbers with black voters were 63% to 31% for Kamala Harris. She doesn't have the support of her own race. Does it scare you as much as it does me to think about Kamala Harris sitting in the Oval Office? Send me a quick text message. Send me an email, joey@joeyhudson.com. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, texter writes, "Good morning, Joey. I think Hunter was a sacrificial lamb so that the Dems could say this about Trump, but during the sentencing, Hunter will get a slap on the wrist while Trump is in prison." Well, that didn't happen. You were a little behind on that because, maybe so. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what he actually gets. I was skeptical that he would even be convicted, but I guess the court proved me wrong on that one. Tony writes, "Well, Joey, I wake up to see Rhino lefty William Timmons winning his primary yesterday. Not a good sign for today. I hope my day gets better. This in response to the results of the congressional race in the 4th Congressional District. I guess Tony's not a big fan of Congressman William Timmons. That was a close race. It was an interesting race. Of course, we got runoffs coming up in the 3rd Congressional District on June the 25th. So you need to, if you're in the 3rd Congressional District and you're listening today, you need to start thinking about who you're going to vote for. Is it Mark Burns, Pastor Mark Burns, who was endorsed by President Donald Trump, or is it Lieutenant Colonel Sherry Biggs? It's going to be an interesting race for sure. Ray writes, love Mike G. However, he's a wuss to bail out before 9 p.m. when some people, Joey, stayed late, and you had a 5 a.m. show to do. Thanks for all you do. This is in reference to our Tuesday night election coverage. Appreciate that, Ray. Susan says, it was nice hearing you, Bill, Charlie, and Mike all together. Yep, it was fun. This, again, referencing our broadcast on Tuesday, election coverage on News Talk 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas. So if you're in the Carolinas, the upstate South Carolina, Western North Carolina, Northeast Georgia, you can listen on 98.9 WORD. If you're elsewhere in the world, you can still listen on the Odyssey app. Just to go to Odyssey and search for 98.9. And, of course, you can always listen on my podcast, where many of you are listening right now, Just the Truth, wherever you listen to your podcast. Jennifer says, hey, Joey, I'm not MIA. Well, Jennifer, I was beginning to think you were because I hadn't heard from you in a while. Jennifer's one of my real confidants. She keeps me in line. She texts and emails quite often, and I appreciate that. She says, I've been looking for a new way to articulate how I'm feeling, and I think Jesse Waters expressed it recently in 17 seconds. I'll send you the video, but here's what he said. And Jennifer did send me a link to the video. Jennifer, I was not able to open that, so let me read to you what Jesse Waters said. This election boils down to this: reason triumphing over fear. If enough Americans use their common sense and deliberate, and they don't allow their passions to be inflamed by demagogues, Joe Biden will be soundly defeated in November. We can hope that comes true, Jennifer. I responded to Jennifer, thanked her for her text, told her I was beginning to worry about her because I hadn't heard from her. She followed up saying, okay, thank you. That's sweet. Well, I didn't leave. I wasn't gone, but I just couldn't find the words. I guess that as the world burns, remember the old soap opera, As the World Turns? Sometimes I just step back and wonder if I'm contributing or just complaining, although she didn't use the word complaining. Thank you for all that you continue to do. Just the Truth was a big mission statement, and you're living up to it every day. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Faye writes, Joey, if folks don't listen to conservative news, they will think that only jobs were added and won't know that 600,000 were cut. These sleazeballs call the government have to be rooted out in November. Voting has to be in huge masses. And you're right. We do have to vote, Faye. We have to turn out in a big way. Our text of encouragement today, Joel always sends us a positive message that we kind of wrap things up with when I read some of the text messages and get you caught up. He says, throughout life, people will make you mad, disrespect you, and treat you bad. Let God deal with the things they do, cause hate in your heart will consume you too. God bless, Joel. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that. Appreciate that note of encouragement there. Your comments are welcome on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line 71307. One of my favorite parts of the show every day is sharing with you some of the text messages. I can't share all of them. Get lots of emails, Facebook messages. But and by the way, speaking of Facebook, join our community online. Search for me. Just search for Joey Hudson on Facebook. Be sure and follow me on YouTube. When you're on YouTube, search for Joey Hudson. Instagram as well, because we have some fun on social media. And, of course, your text messages. And you can send those very simply by texting on the Common Sense Retirement text line, 71307. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. And if you missed part of today's show on 98.9 WORD, the voice of the Carolinas, you can always listen later on the podcast. Just go to the Odyssey app, search for Joey Hudson, Just the Truth. South Carolina taxpayers we're told, have spent $20,000 for a marketing company to design a logo for a new state agency that will replace the Department of Health and Environmental Control's Environmental Division. The expenditure, while not much when compared to DHEC's overall budget, according to the state newspaper, is $600 million, has one legislator asking questions about the judgment of top state officials spending taxpayers' dollars on a service that could have been done in-house at DHEC. DHEC, which is slated to dissolve literally in just a few weeks, July the 1st, already has a staff member who could have done the work in creating the logo for the new Department of Environmental Services, a South Carolina senator told the state newspaper. Senator Dick Harpootlian, who's in a heated contest, by the way, said to me, that is an amazing lack of judgment to spend $20,000 on the design of a new logo for a new agency. As part of the government restructuring that's intended to make things more efficient, according to the legislature, the Department of Environmental Services will pick up most programs now administered by DHEC's Environmental Division, such as issuing permits to industries and monitoring drinking water safety. In total, the state paid the Chernoff-Newman Agency $48,050, along with the $20,000 logo development expenditures, which include $10,000 on a comprehensive style guide and $8,000 for a brand summary and development of a creative strategy. What exactly is a creative strategy when it comes to the department, environmental agency like this? DHEC, whose environmental division authorized the expenditure, according to the state newspaper, said that the $48,050 is being paid to Chernoff-Newman by the new Department of Environmental Services. In contrast, DHEC's health division did not rely on Chernoff-Newman. It designed a new logo in-house with existing agency staff, according to DHEC officials responding to an email from the state newspaper. The agency's health division will become the new Department of Public Health next month on that same date, July the 1st. And it is a good question, isn't it? If you've got that much money and you have staff who can do this, why would you hire it out? Why would you go to an outside agency like this? Ott is a Democrat from Calhoun, said he'd like to know more. He said, it concerns me if those folks are going to be running the new agency, then the governor probably needs to do a little house cleaning. The state newspaper said the Department of Environmental Services will be initially headed by Myra Reese, a veteran regulator who is well known and well liked by many in the state government. She'll work directly for McMaster as part of his cabinet. At DHEC, a board oversaw the agency. This is that whole debate on the health czar. You've heard us talking about this. There's been a lot of discussion on the so-called health czar, and there's a movement within the legislature to a degree to maybe take another look at this. I doubt that it will happen, but we shall see. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and we're going to win in the June primaries, and if we're going to win in November especially, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece.